Yo!
Is he Jewish?
Yeah.
Lord?
Now remember, we don't hate the Jews. We hate the Jewish state.
That is not dope, yo.
This is the final episode of Buckle Up with Mike and I. Welcome back to
Buckle up, baby. Episode 75.
6.
I think it's 5.
Whatever. Not important.
Obvious.
Rebid.
What's on everyone's minds? Did you see what just came out?
No.
The trailer for Good Burger 2 just came out.
Well, that has been sweeping the nation.
Yeah, Keenan and Kel are back together.
Oh.
Great cast. Probably a great script. Kel's been sitting on it for like 25 years.
Honestly,
thoughts? What are your immediate thoughts?
Well, nothing else going on in the world. This seems to be really front and center.
Yeah.
In true Buckle Up theme, you son of a bitch.
I think the theme, they want to like introduce AI into Good Burger and like franchise it a little bit, and chaos ensues.
Do I even want to take the bait on that piece of nonsense? Is that even true?
It's true. It's 100% true.
Well, they picked a hell of a time to announce.
Yeah. A lot of people don't care about what's going on in Israel.
A lot of people don't care. But guess, you really think so? A lot of people don't care?
It
It seems like a disproportionate amount of people do care.
The entire world is paying attention in a way I've never experienced in my life. There have been wars before. There have been conflicts before. It's never been encompassed all of culture in the way it feels like it does.
You know how your whole life, in our lives, we're raised with like talking points, for better or worse. Never before in my life has a talking point that you kind of dismiss or take for granted shown itself to be true. That the hostility towards Israel or anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. And this obsession with this sliver of land for Jews, the Jewish state, our little sliver, people hyper obsess about and hold to this impossible standard in a way that can only be explained by anti-Semitism. And I come to that conclusion now sort of independent of what I've been told about it from previous generations or education. It's just undeniable, and we can unpack it if we want. But if anything, just the obsession alone with a situation when it involves Jews, when it involves Israel, versus all other conflicts around the world, the disproportionate obsession to me is a cause of interest, and to be suspect.
Yeah.
Why does it ignite the world in the way that it does when Israel, the only Jewish state in the world that's the size of New Jersey, tries to defend itself? It baffles me, and the only logical conclusion, not the conspiratorial conclusion, the logical conclusion to come to is there's so much anti-Semitism.
I read something about it recently. Someone asked that same question, and one of the reasons he gave, which I think is fair, is first of all, it's like a Western culture over there, and also because of the Bible, people feel an attachment to the Holy Land. Anyone who's Christian or religious in any sense, who has ever opened up a Bible, feels more of an attachment there than Yemen. You know, they know the names of the cities, they know the geography.
I understand why Israel itself is more of a known entity or a known piece of geography. But that doesn't explain the secular, woke hostility towards Israel as accusations of Israel as this imperialist, colonialist power. That's not because of its biblical significance. It's because they hate the Jews.
Seems that way. It seems that way.
And they're applauding it. Like there's not even this like, I don't even know where to start. Is like there's what's going on in Israel. That's the tragedy itself of the massacre of Israelis on October 7th. And then there's the silence about it, the indifference about it, and the celebration of it, and the indifference to that celebration. It's so insane. There's like double standards on so many different layers of this.
Let me take it back for a second first, because last episode we put out, we could hardly speak.
Yeah.
Now we both have a lot to say.
Yeah.
What do you think has changed between October 14th and October 31st, where now we feel pretty comfortable here talking about stuff? What happened in the last 2 weeks?
So, for me, the additional layer of concern that's come into the equation is you've seen Israel respond to what happened on October 7th. And everyone seems to forget that. Like all the innocent people who suffer in a war, every innocent civilian who's died from was alive on October 4th, October 5th, and October 6th. Somebody said on a news segment, Israel was in a ceasefire on October 6th.
Right.
Stop calling for a ceasefire. Israel was in a ceasefire on October 6th. So what are we talking about? But what's changed now is the war has ensued. Israel has responded to October 7th. And yes, death and destruction has happened in a war. There's death and destruction. The question is, we could talk about how it's justified in Israel defending itself. But like people say, in one hand, Israel has the right to defend itself. But then they say, but they can't. Not effectively, essentially. But what has changed, to answer your question, not to get off of it, I'm saying, so that conversation, all that's been coming out. But what's changed that's even just as concerning as the slaughter of what happened in Israel and the tragedy and atrocities there is you're now seeing like the true face of anti-Zionism and these Palestinian liberation movements. Mm-hmm. You're seeing that reveal itself in people celebrating the event, mm-hmm. in people calling for from the river to the sea, accusing Israel of genocide while calling for genocide against Jews. And then you're seeing old school anti-Semitism, pogroms. A plane lands in Russia full of Israelis, and there's a pogrom of people trying to find Jews to hunt them. They're checking people's passports, 1939 Germany style. Yeah. So you're seeing these actions happen, and then you're seeing the sort of public response to it, which is this sort of soft, cowardly, ooh, that's awkward. Like, can we look the other way? I don't want to face it. Whereas other forms of bigotry and racism, anti-black racism, when we've seen it in the past, is so unequivocally condemned by the world, and we all know it. We all get on board with that. But when it comes to Jews, we're now seeing not only a glaring double standard of Israel and how it defends itself, but in displays of anti-Semitism, there's just this double standard. When it comes to Jew hatred, it doesn't summon up the same ire, and that's another level of concern.
And that wasn't happening 2 weeks ago?
I mean, not enough time had passed for people to respond to what was happening. So when you're seeing protests across the world in the tens of thousands supporting not just a free Palestine, or forget a free Palestine, supporting Hamas in the UK, in France, all over the place. And then where are the good people responding to it? They're kind of like, it's complicated. Yeah. It's a crazy region. There's a lot of history. And those are supposed to be the good people. Yeah. And then it takes a certain amount of bravery to come out and say, yeah, calling for the death of all Jews is wrong. And I'm not going to stand on the side of entities and regimes that call for the destruction of Jews and the extermination, the destruction of Israel as a state and extermination of Jews as a people. It's somehow now brave to come out and speak out against that. There's been so few people. And for us as Jews to see I appreciate all the people who have come out to support, but for that to even be difficult to do is concerning for us as Jews. And I think as enough time has passed, then we're seeing sort of the indifference or the silence of the major institutions in our society and high-level profile figures sort of not say anything. It's like Elie Wiesel said, or quoting Edmund Burke, evil can triumph when good men do nothing. Mm-hmm. It's not just the people perpetuating it. Just to see that on full display and to feel that indifference as Jews is the next layer of concern for us, right?
We saw someone we actually interviewed on the podcast, like a high profile Jew who he didn't say anything about it until a few days ago. Yeah. When he could start talking about anti-Semitism, he started to feel included. Maybe I don't know. Not to put myself in his shoes. Maybe he didn't feel as included in Israel because he doesn't feel a connection to it. Right. Yeah, but maybe now we're all feeling. Maybe even in America, we're feeling personally involved in a way we didn't 2 weeks ago that allows us maybe to speak.
And look, I take for granted, and we take for granted the fact that we had an education about Israel growing up and like the history and the details and have read a lot about it, which I have.
By the way,
and for a lot of Jews, they're not necessarily armed with the knowledge of kind of putting things into perspective. So they don't want to touch a subject that's unclear to them. And that could be the whole conflict. But now when it's just about Jews, gas the Jews, kill the Jews, we want Jewish genocide. And then you're like Mayim Bialik in her statement, it doesn't matter if you're on the right or the left. It wouldn't matter to any of these people whether I supported a two-state solution or fought to and sympathized with the plight of Palestinians. It doesn't matter to them. I'm a Jew, and I'm a stranger in a strange land.
In Penn Station on Friday night, there was a Jewish group calling for a ceasefire. Right. They're called like the Jewish Voice or something.
Jewish Voice for Peace.
Yeah, and they flooded Penn Station calling for a ceasefire. And my first thought was like, how like badly are you trying to be loved by these people who hate you? Like you think this is, I mean, like it's a derangement.
Yeah.
To like separate yourself from your tribe almost in like an effort to be seen in some way. It felt tribally like this is like stupid what you're doing.
Yeah, masochistic.
And you can even think that you can have those opinions. That's fine, but to promote to be publicly expressing them like that felt like on an instinctual primal level like dumb
and masochistic. Like we feel guilty. We are bad. Cat, we're with you. Kill us. Like it's almost like we want to suicide ourselves for this. We hate us. We hate us too. Now, I want to be careful that in making the case to stand with Israel, as far as appealing to not only the non-Jewish world, but fellow Jews who might be confused about this, especially those in Jewish Voice for Peace, it's important to remember that they shouldn't stand with Israel because of their tribal affiliation to the Jewish community. And that kind of peer pressure to be put on them, like, hey, you're a Jew, you got to... That is not the most compelling argument. Because by that logic, then you just have to affiliate and swear your allegiance to whatever tribal group you're a part of, no matter wrong or right. But you stand with Israel because of good and evil, because of right and wrong. And if after the events of October 7th, you don't know where you stand, if you look into it, take away everything else beforehand. If you can't tell, generally speaking, even if there's matters of degree here, the side of civility, the side of civilization, the side of good, and the side of evil and barbarism and savagery, if you don't know where that is, you're kind of morally broken. Not because you're a Jew, but because you're a moral person. As
always, it seems like Israel has like bad PR, but a couple messages I've seen other people trying to promote. I think Michael Rappaport, the guy he was on Friends, and he has that beef with David Portnoy.
Palestinian. Come on.
Yeah, but I think I saw him put out like a really good message Israel should have put out was like the message should be Hamas should surrender. Like that's a great simple message that anyone can get behind, and return the hostages. Like why wasn't that
front and center?
Everyone agrees. I shouldn't say everyone agrees with that, which is the really scary part.
No, they don't.
But most people, I think,
you ever heard by any means necessary? What did you think colonization would look like? These people celebrate. It's the same thing that happened in the riots and BLM riots, where people were celebrating destruction of property and persons in the name of resistance. This is part of the ethic that permeates the far woke ideas. This is not me trying to score political points or dunk on an argument. It's like it's staring at us front and center. It's why the BLM Chicago puts up that thing and says, it is what it is, or whatever they said, with a paraglider terrorist, in the name of the oppressed versus the oppressor, and whoever is powerful is necessarily bad, and whoever is seen to be weaker is good and virtuous. They justify all the atrocities from one to the other.
I was in Trader Joe's yesterday, and I saw this woman shopping, and she was not visibly Jewish in any way, but I saw her face. She was so like tired. And my first thought was like, this woman's Jewish. She's been through it in the last 3 weeks. And I think people, I don't know if people understand that, what it feels like. And it's also nice, it doesn't matter what your religious affiliation is. It seems like people across the spectrum are feeling the same thing in the same way, which is pretty profound.
Which is what? Shock? Fear?
Fear, defeated.
You mean across the Jewish spectrum?
Walk into like a kosher style deli.
Yeah.
People who are not going to synagogue on Yom Kippur still feel what I'm feeling right now, which is profound. You know, it's profound to be connected.
I said it to an audience last night. Does anybody just feel like a certain sense of solidarity with all your fellow Jews? Don't you just love every Jew right now, given the context of what we're going through? You kind of zoom out. I was like, and it's kind of annoying because there were a lot of Jews in my life I really enjoyed not liking. I did, but in the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, all right, dude. They hate. Like, it puts you all in the same boat as it felt like. It's like this weird moment of history from the 1930s has been superimposed on today. Like we're living in a dream. Like, imagine waking up then. What did it feel like? I feel like it felt like this. Restaurants, people talking, intellectualizing it, contextualizing it. Well, it's not really the Jews. It's Israel, the Jewish state. Now, remember, we don't hate the Jews. We hate the Jewish state. Japan? Oh, no. We love the Japanese, but we hate the Japanese state. No. Vietnam, India, all these other countries, they have a state. The Jews, well, interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder what will happen with them. John? simply troubling. What it just feels like that conversation in the champagne restaurant elite scenes of college campuses talking about just wild.
A rabbi I listened to was his father was a Holocaust survivor, and he said like after Holocaust, his father just lost complete regard for what any goy thinks, because he said like he saw the civility of Austria and Germany.
You mean at the time?
I say after the Holocaust, like he was one of those like don't have a window on your synagogue. The goyim are going to break it. Like things I generally dismiss. But he went through his life thinking like, if the goyim think it, forget it. If that's what they listen to, forget it.
He disqualified the opinions of the non-Jewish world.
Yeah, because he said like he saw what happened in Germany. He saw how civilized they were, how smart they were, how intellectual, and he saw what they were capable of, and he just completely lost. And I
faith in humanity.
Not faith in humanity, just faith in that civility, faith in that veneer of humanity that can go away like that.
Jordan Peterson has always talked about one of the big warning cries he gives on all of his podcasts is like, I don't know if he's ever said this directly, but one of the takeaways I get from his ideas is like, we think civilization is this like stable bedrock and it's just here and we all are now elevated and evolved and you're really this close to hell. Always looking on the other side of it, and it's always right there. Yeah. So you have to be...
I've always liked him. And he comes from hell, so he knows.
Oh, my God. Well, you're always this close to hell. And he says things get bad one step at a time, and we're like, where did all this come from? But you kind of see... I think during COVID was the first time where like politics extended to personal, where all of a sudden people have political disagreements. It's all good. We all debate. It's all good. And I've been struggling with this idea. But if you keep playing with that, I think we're going to get clicks and pops in the mic, by the way, if you stroke it. But you know how like politics amongst friends and disagreements, it's all good. But then there are certain things that come up in life that really divide people.
Yeah.
And I remember COVID at the time being this thing where people who I'm friends with who are a little more liberal were like, no. You can't go out. You can't do those things. I'm going to judge you now. Where it was a lot more of it's going to happen. It all of a sudden extended to where politics became personal, and now we can't just disagree about this and agree to disagree. Now all of a sudden my opinions infringe on yours, and COVID was the first time I was seeing that, where people were like, I may have an opinion about it, you may have an opinion about it, but you have to restrict your freedom, and they felt that way towards me, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Then you went through the whole like Kanye phase last year of that cultural moment where he could just say these things and walk around with impunity. Yes, I'll lose brand deals and all that, but he's still Kanye, and I feel like he could drop an album tomorrow, and people would buy it. I feel like that also highlighted the double standard of anti-Semitism and breaking down that barrier of what you could say in public about Jews, and everyone's like, I don't really agree with it, but maybe he's got a point, and we could just like talk about it casually. And therefore, anti-Semitism was now once again reared its head as this thing you could do and you can express and you could feel and talk about. And you're not going to get necessarily shunned to the same extent as other forms of bigotry. And now here we are today. And I feel like it paved the way a little bit. And maybe it's been there the whole time.
I know.
But Jordan Peterson said things get bad one small step at a time. And we've been nudged and pushed to accept these kinds of ideas in our world, the woke ideas and these narratives. And now here we are justifying in the universities justifying atrocities against Jews.
I don't know.
You can connect.
I don't know if I've said this before on the podcast, but I remember thinking in like 2007 when I first started seeing Zach Galifianakis, one of his like bits was blatant anti-Semitism, and it was funny. You know, like I can't think of a specific joke, but he'd be like Zach, like my name's Zach Galifianakis. Don't worry, I'm not Jewish, something like that. And it was so like no one had made those kind of jokes, I think, in like a long time. And he was the first comic I can remember to make those blatantly anti-Semitic jokes. And I don't think he's anti-Semitic. It was funny. But I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, joking about this leads to just sort of not joking about it. And I remember I'm like, having that language enter culture feels dangerous to me.
Well, now you're down a slope that I don't necessarily go with.
It's been like 15 years.
Because I think joking about something is also a testament to, like, being civilized about it. Like when you can joke about, like I think like if you think about it, like
I disagree.
Well, think about the things you can't joke about. like
The N-word.
Yeah, you can't joke about it, but I don't know if that
it keeps a gate around what people allow around this virus of anti-Semitism, which it seems like people are not immune to. Like sane people, once the virus gets in their head, go nuts. So like
you're saying you can't joke about certain things because it just makes it palatable for people.
No, because language is really, really powerful, and
Yes.
and just having certain language enter people's heads.
But language paired with
on.
But words themselves, like language paired with intention, is what it means. Like if he wrote an anti-Semitic
We've had
article,
this debate again. I understand.
if he wrote an article and everyone's like, "Oh, that was a little off-putting," but I get it. If he was serious and made a serious anti-Semitic point, I get it.
I
But
disagree.
But if it was a joke,
I disagree.
I think jokes are a testament to people tolerating each other.
I think
Humor.
There are certain things in human nature that we're so susceptible to that you can't even joke about it. I think like it's even very like sane normal people are susceptible to anti-Semitism, so you really need to be very careful about the language you even allow yourself to use.
But if it's funny, that's telling you something that we can joke about it and not.
Yeah. But look where we are. Look where we are.
Yeah, but you're drawing.
later.
I'm saying you're drawing a thread to this moment.
I'm
in
not
2007.
blaming. I'm not blaming him, but
No, you're saying
that's
that
been
you're
my
saying that the
experience of it.
casual use of joking about Jews and suffering and all that will eventually lead to this. I don't follow that thread.
I'm not saying will eventually. I'm saying can eventually.
I can understand why you're feeling that way right now.
No, I remember in 2007 feeling that way.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not blaming him by any means. I just if I had to track back to the first time where it even occurred to me like something like this could happen, it was then. But anyway, we went through
But
this.
that is derailing the point where
with the N-word stuff, with the Joe Rogan stuff. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, we had this debate then.
But again, look, this is
should we just end the podcast?
We will. But this is getting into weird, dicey territory of arguments that aren't worth having. My only thing I would say is like language that we just can't talk about and say. I don't know if that really protects against racism. To me, what's been much more perpetuating of racism is the same ideologies that want to suppress speech are the ones who are the most racist against Jews right now. It's the people who won't let us like freely talk about anything, that want to protect certain groups and persecute other groups. Yeah. That kind of ideology is much more dangerous and is what's causing, to me, what you're seeing on colleges, these people who are now saying, oh, free speech when we talk about Jews. But certainly in other cases of joking, they're wanting to shut it down if it's other groups. Yeah. This double standard when it comes to Jews, to me, that's where the thread goes. I don't think the ability to joke amongst friends and with good intentions and tell funny jokes is what is going to introduce that into like that poison into the world. I think if anything, it's other elements, but we could go on and on.
We can go on and on about that.
Anyway, I was going to say that it's just I've never been one of these like people, even as the grandchild of Holocaust survivors, who bought into the hysteria of the modern Jew or the paranoia of the modern Jew in this country or in the diaspora, who said like, hey, it could always happen again here. I think it could happen in our lifetime, another Holocaust in America and all that stuff. I would be like, oh God, roll my eyes. I don't feel that way anymore. Yeah. I am now like, where are we going to move? I'm going to call that guy and be like, how do you get a passport? Like Singapore? Yeah. Like what? So, I'm feeling all that. And I'm like, I just like that person, that paranoia is now justified. Yeah. It's not paranoia anymore. It's based in an unfortunate reality that is on full display.
Did you see what Jim Gaffigan tweeted? I think
yes, I thought that was so moving.
What did he say? What was the tweet?
He said, can we all text our Jewish friends now and say, okay, you weren't paranoid? Like, to me, that line was one of the most moving things I've seen anybody say about the issue. Yeah. And it's so profound because he's like, oh, all our Jewish anxiety friends, we poke fun at them. Stop, you're kidding yourself. And that for him to say that, to me, was like one of the best statements anyone's made about this.
I've never liked the anxious, neurotic Jewish Bagel and Lox character on TV because I've always, behind the humor there, it's like, why do you think we eat lox? Mm-hmm. Because we all grew up in Eastern Europe where people ate smoked fish, but anyone who stayed there died. Mm-hmm. So we came here and now we eat lox here. Right. Like that's why we eat it. That's why Woody Allen's neurotic. Like I've always like, and I've said this on the podcast
Woody
before.
Allen, he's not in the best place publicly right now, but
he's back in, baby. Everyone starts at zero now. Any Jew starts back at zero. No, but I've always been bothered by that
portrayal.
No, but by like the Jewish joke of like, yeah, Jews are neurotic and paranoid.
You've been
and
bothered
weak
that that's a
and-
thing, but now you realize why it's a thing.
I've always just sort of seen a layer past the humor. No, I always have, and now I think if Woody Allen made a movie now about an erotic Jew, it would land in less of a funny place. It would be like, well, yeah, he's
There was a
that makes
funny
sense.
meme or a tweet that said like, for all those who wonder why Jews are neurotic, we all are the descendants of Jews who were in a country and said, yo, the vibes are off. We're getting on a boat.
Yeah.
So like we're the descendants of anxious people because historically, like
Yeah.
Andrew Schultz said, like you could literally pick the date. Every place I went to was like, oh, this is the day the Jews were kicked out. This is the day the Jews were kicked out. And he gave a really compelling sort of, it's what's fascinating for me and like what I'm interested in. The only conversation outside of the Jewish community I'm kind of interested in is how sort of neutral bystanders are seeing this. Like, I want to see how you're perceiving all this. Like, if you have no background in our background, in Israel, in being a Jew in this country and living outside of Israel or whatever it is, Holocaust, like if you don't have that in your history, how do you see all this? So Andrew Schultz, I think, gave a very honest.
Yeah, not a Jew, by the way.
Yes.
Deceptively
Schultz with a
not
Z,
a Jew,
not
yeah.
TZ, and that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Even though Steiny thought he was. I thought we were mishpacha, bro.
Yeah, he's like, he's trying to Jew me.
He thinks,
trying
no,
to
he's like,
Jew
he thinks I'm Jewish. He thinks I'm Jewish. Do you guys know each other? Are you guys like friends? So let's talk about Israel Palestine. Let's do it. Let's talk about it.
I
No,
liked,
but
I
the
liked
fact-
how his serious voice, his daddy voice.
Well, he almost was choking up a little. It was like I thought it was like very like he's
But
like
I thought it was good, and the who's his producer, the
Alex?
black guy,
Alex?
Alex Media.
Yeah.
I thought you could tell sort of he probably might not agree with everything, but he was kind of sitting there respectfully. I thought it was a really nice.
and Akash was like, "Yo, yeah, your grandparents were in the Holocaust, like shit." And also like Akash had a
That
moment.
is not dope, yo.
That's exactly. But he was just like, I think for him, I could see it in his eyes. He was like, I did not realize how much anti-Semitism is its own thing.
Yeah.
And now I do.
Yeah, he gets that part, and I think he also gets he's Muslim, I think.
Hindu.
He's Hindu. Like, he gets what it's like to be like an Eastern brown guy in America,
To be othered?
and to be othered in that way. So I think he's in a really interesting place, like to comment on it.
And he's just like, I always thought Jews were just like white, like everybody else. And I'm like, people, it is not like that for Jews. They walk around and, the minorities think that they're white and the whites think that they're, there's these vermin. Yeah. And it's like, now it shows like what this is. And it's this ill-defined amorphous thing, almost like this disease that possesses everyone. Barry Weiss says like, the capitalists who hate Jews think Jews are the communists, and the communists who hate Jews say Jews are the capitalists. We take every single shape of scapegoating you can imagine, and it gets attributed to the Jew in every regime, in every country throughout history.
In Dagestan,
we've been blamed for everything.
They want to kick the Jews out. Where are they supposed to go?
What?
In Dagestan, they want to kick the Jews out.
Yeah.
Where? Israel?
Yeah, I know.
And then what?
Oh, that's another point.
What's the thinking there?
The weird irony going on here is that one can make the case, one of the cases for Israel, aside from the many like legitimate claims that Israel can make about its existence and its founding, is that Jews need a state of their own to protect themselves. Because historically, if there's ever a case for any sort of state for a particular people, it's the Jews who've had it the roughest in history in terms of the necessity for a state. And yet now people are using that state as the excuse for anti-Semitism, which necessitates the need for the state. So it's like never has the cause of anti-Semitism, or people are claiming it's because of this cause, shown the need for that state to exist. It's so strange to me.
Rabbi Sachs said it very well. I heard him speak probably in like 2013 or something. He said, in every era of Jewish persecution, these sort of prevailing thought of the day is used as the excuse to persecute the Jews. So in Spain, it was religion. Mm-hmm. It was like Christianity. The Jews are like, bad for
Christ killers. They kill their Lord, and they don't
Germany,
accept our Lord.
In Germany, they use science.
Mm-hmm.
It was like science.
They're contaminating the race. They're vermin.
And so he said this in like 2030. He said, "What's going to be next? Social justice." Mm-hmm. And everyone sort of like dead
went,
And I remembered that then, and he's like, that's the prevailing thought of the day, and that's what's going to be used against us next. Yeah.
So him and Zach Galifianakis speaking pretty close within years of each other.
And people don't know this. They had a very close relationship that I'm actually writing a book about.
Yes.
Yeah. Galifianakis sax
Saxophonakis.
in conversation.
Zachariah Galifianakis.
Saxophonakis.
He's a good guy, man.
Zach, I
Can't believe you would bring him into this.
I think.
Remember his interview with Paul Rudd? What would you tell actors who want to hide their Jewishness as well as you have?
Yeah.
I'm not a practicing Jew.
That's a great example
I
of it.
perfected. That's an excellent joke. If you're a Yid, you should defend humor at all costs. That's all we have, Michael. That's all we have.
It's funny.
It's a
but,
wonderful joke.
I think it can be both.
It sheds light on the truth.
It can be both.
The Hollywood need to hide your Jewishness, and then Paul Rudd playing along. I'm not a practicing Jew. I perfected it.
Is he Jewish?
Yeah.
Paul Rudd?
He's like, I'm not a practicing Jew. I perfected it. That was a great exchange because what Zach Havas is actually doing in that joke, if you want to get analytical,
I understand it. You know who's Dagestani? Hezbollah.
Is he?
Yeah, and he's been silent. Hezbollah, speak up. You know,
Been on the Nelk Boys
when people
recently.
ask me for a picture of my daughter, I show them a picture of Hezbollah.
He's from Dagestan. That plane
the
landed and you're
Dagestani
seeing where are
fighter.
the Jews and they're looking at passports. He's Uzbek. I'm Uzbek. He's pleading with them. I tweeted that. I
how
said,
terrified that guy. Yeah.
He's like, don't worry, I'm Uzbek. I tweeted like, don't worry, guys, he's not Jewish.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. What am I missing? Where is the world eruption across the good-natured world of the West, standing in solidarity with Israel and the Jewish people against anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism?
I heard Bill Simmons, his podcast. I try to listen to some stuff that's not about Israel to like just relax. And he opened up his podcast with like a very heartfelt tribute to Matthew Perry, alav shalom, who died this week.
Yeah.
And he was on the verge of tears, Bill Simmons, talking about how deeply he was affected by Matthew Perry's death. And my thought was like, Bill Simmons cares way more about Matthew Perry than he does about Israel and Hamas. And that's fine. And that's why he hasn't said anything about Israel and Hamas, because he cares way more about Matthew Perry.
Yeah.
And it's just like everyone else who cares more about Matthew Perry should also probably take a beat before they say anything.
It's been interesting to see all these Instagram influencers siding with, Free Palestine. All of a sudden they're experts on military tactics as well. Like having authority here on how Israel should retaliate and what's considered proportion and all this nonsense. Yeah. You know that they were saying, BBC reported that Matthew Perry was killed by Israel in a bombardment.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And it was a genocide.
It turns out it was Islamic Jihad, whatever.
They genocided Matthew Perry.
Yeah, they're using these words. The co-opting of language by these groups is just nuts. Just throwing around words like apartheid and genocide and hydroxychloroquine.
I stole that
peroxide.
joke. I stole the joke from Dim Dillon, who was like, "What happened in the back of that Uber was a genocide."
See, those kind of jokes too.
He's been.
Is he
funny.
minimizing? And I'm not trying to keep arguing with you. Do you think he's minimizing it, or he's highlighting the ignorance that's out there? That's what he's doing.
He's highlighting it. Yeah.
But one could say talking about it in a non-serious way of any kind is going to minimize.
That's not what I'm saying. Let's. We're not going to agree on that.
We're not, which is why it's a thorn in my craw.
Yeah.
When you're saying that, like the talking about anti-Semitism or joking about Jews, all of a sudden introduces this okayness with it.
It's kind of like when you joke about like stealing pizza. Like you joke about it, it's funny, and then like eventually you're like, maybe we kind of should steal pizza.
I just take a principled position that the ability to joke around with each other about our differences is the celebration of those differences and the tolerance of that in general. So when we can all do that, every race, creed, and color can do it, then we're all getting along.
Because we can't do it yet.
Yeah, now we can't.
Yeah, we couldn't before, but until Zach joked about it.
Okay.
But we have a big announcement to make.
Yes, we're coming up to the end of this episode. We've covered mostly Israel stuff. I did, first of all, acknowledge that, like, we talk about not to get too self-indulgent here, we talk about my Instagramming and social media stuff, and I don't know if you have thoughts about it, but I did make a conscious choice to step out of the role of entertainer and comedian, musician, and go full on, like, vouching for Israel and giving some commentary and thoughts on this. I have my reasons for it, which I could talk about.
Yeah.
But it was a conscious choice, and we had spoken about it of like what to do here.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
And I'm curious what you think about my decision.
Well, I joked to you. You called me the day on October 8th, and you were like, you sent me a video. You're like, what do you think of this? Is it cringe? And I called you back. I was like, I think it is a little cringe. I don't really think you need to be putting out like a statement. So it was your idea.
You're mixing the order of things. I sent you that video way later after I'd already posted a bunch of stuff.
No.
Yeah.
No. This was the morning after.
Was
this
it
is
the
Monday
doctor,
morning.
the guy going to the doctor video?
No. This was before that. This was before that.
Another video?
It before you posted anything. Yeah, it was. I remember I was taking my sukkah down. I remember, and you decided I'm just gonna post like a text. I stand with Israel.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, that seems appropriate.
For now.
Like flash forward 14 weeks, and you're 14 days later, and you're in black and white, imitating your grandfather speaking in a German accent or in a Polish accent, like giving you a message in the future. And I'm like, what has happened in the last 14 days?
Well, I don't think you watched anything leading up to that.
I watched some. I was trying to stay off social media.
You saw the text and the Zaidi video, and then you were like, "What?
No,
happened?"
that's not true.
No.
I didn't realize how much you were posting.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in the context.
But anyway, say. Well, you want to know what I think of it?
Well,
I think I like it when any artist does something authentic from their real voice and from their real concerns and their real interests. And I think that's what you did there. I wouldn't have done it myself. I'm not even the audience for it, but I think I like that you did it. And I think the response has shown that you did something true and good and real because people have responded positively to it. That's what I think.
A lot of negatives too.
Brought
out the moths to a flame of the anti-Semites on the ground.
Yeah.
But listen, and it's so funny, the anti-Semitic comments I'm getting, they're all like getting defensive about my charge that they're anti-Semitic by being anti-Semitic. That's how they're responding. They're like, I'm not anti-Semite, you hook-nosed Jew bastard. Like that's what there's like, fucking Jew playing the victim. Let's wipe him out. I'm like, well, I'm not playing the victim if you're threatening to kill us all. So I've gotten that. But anyway, I will say
from a content perspective.
Yeah. So look, it comes from a couple of different places. Like, I guess this is the first time something like this has ever happened to this scale in our life. It's also the first time something of significance, of tragedy that has happened, and I have an audience in conjunction with that like might benefit from something I might have to say about it. Like, I never had to feel that before because there was no one to talk to about it or express anything to in outside of interpersonally. But also there was this real sense of a morality collapse and reality collapse around this issue of Israel, where I felt like the idea of doing comedy in a world that devolves into moral relativism, that doesn't understand and respect basic humanity and basic human rights, at that real level of principle that our civilization sort of rests on, like comedy's days are numbered in a world like that. And they will fall on deaf ears. You can't really have you can't have art freely, truly expressed in a world that will devolve into a place that justifies atrocities willy-nilly based on these ridiculous ideas. So I did feel almost sort of passionately mission-driven to offer what I could say about a subject from that perspective. So it's sort of consistent with fighting for comedy and fighting for us to just be able to have fun. But I got to first get back to baseline here and let's just establish a few things. So that was sort of the philosophical motivation. There's obviously the personal motivation that I'm, between the friends and family and connection I have to Israel as a personal trauma. I wanted to speak out about it. It's affecting my life. And I always felt that it was very funny when people were like, why you speak out about this? Why the selective outrage? You haven't spoken about other things. And it's like, fair enough. But it's like, look, everybody's got their things subjectively that affect them. There's plenty of tragedies in the world that I might have not spoken about, but it doesn't mean that they're less wrong and not worth condemnation, but they didn't affect me as personally, as subjectively as this one. It's like going to a family of a house and the family just experienced a trauma or somebody was murdered in that family. It's like, you know what? I know it's sad that your family member got murdered, but there's a lot of murders in the world. That's not what you say to a family going through a trauma or somebody going through something personally. Well, there's a lot of pain in the world, you're not the only one. You shouldn't just get mad about this. We all have a certain kinship and connection with people who share common history, common culture, and all of that. So I didn't feel wrong in speaking out about this issue when I hadn't spoken about other issues previously. Yeah. And it just felt so beyond politics. I wasn't getting on there talking about abortion or taxes or other things and being like, anyway, so the new house is back. I wasn't just doing a detachment from that. So it being philosophically consistent with fighting for the right to have a free civil society and making sure we're all on the same page here and respecting each other. And standing on the right side of civilization versus barbarism and savagery. I felt philosophically driven to do it, personally motivated to do it, and I don't regret a thing because I know that it's that personal hurt and feeling the need to offer clarity to it. People are like, no, entertain us, monkey. Come on, don't feel bad. It's like, you guys can all relax for the 3 seconds. If you don't like it, you can scroll up. Mm-hmm. It's not like you pay me. But I didn't want to disrespect people, but I also felt like in doing a few videos, 1 or 2, I realized in the response, like perhaps I'm also good at clarifying or articulating these positions in a way that I think can be helpful for not just people who don't know anything about the situation, but also people who I felt wanted to stand in solidarity with Israel, but didn't quite know how to, or didn't feel like they could speak up for Israel, might give the wrong idea that they're unfeeling towards the other side or towards innocent Palestinians. Like, I felt like it's okay to take a side, to take a stand, and not just be neutral or claim, oh, war is bad, innocents dying is bad. Like, you can be precise in your speech, in your language, in your positions. You know, when the rapist comes and rapes a victim and you side with the victim, that's one-sided. Doesn't mean it's wrong. And I felt like, of all the stuff I've consumed over the years, from the intellectual curiosities and stuff I've read about and the history of Israel, and also just generally speaking, my politics, all that kind of stuff, like all those circuits kind of woke up. And I know we pride ourselves in not knowing what the hell we're talking about and just kibitzing, and it's true. I didn't want to fancy myself on Instagram as a scholar of history, or let me educate you on Israel, even though people might have felt educated by my content, but I felt like it was more like, I'm just trying to be a guy here who, for the sake of moral clarity and like for the sake of what's good in this world and for the sake of humanity, like, this is my perspective, and I'm going to try to be as impartial as I can in just explaining how this feels, even subjectively for me, but like, you know, just giving my opinion on it, not coming at it as anything out of that lane. I'm trying to be conscious of that. And so I stand by it. Okay? Anyway, having said all that, as far as our podcast goes, because you're bored as fuck and you're about to
Well, I think you said that. I think you explained it the last podcast also.
Yes. We do have an announcement to make.
We do have a big announcement to make.
This is the final episode of Buckle Up with Mike and Ami.
It is.
It is.
We made 75 episodes.
I'm proud of that.
I'm proud of it too.
Are you? You spent a lot of time bitching about it, Michael.
I'm proud that we made it.
Yeah.
Did I spend a lot of time bitching about it?
In the beginning, or season 2, we went to season 2, you're like, I don't like what we've been doing. I don't like it. I see our body of work, and I'm not happy about it. That's what you said one episode. It's okay. You're a moody guy.
No, I feel that way in some capacities, which is why we're making changes.
Okay, so fear not. Fake out. It is the last episode of Buckle Up, but it is not the end of Michael and I.
And Ami.
It is not the end of our endeavor, because Buckle Up is transforming, evolving into its next iteration called Ami's House. Ami's House. Ami's House, because I'm the star. Let's be honest. We've been doing this, and let's be honest, Michael. They love me, and they hate you.
You know what? It's not wrong.
It's not wrong.
It's not true.
And this was Michael's idea. But basically, what we're going to do...
That's important to say. This was my idea. This was my idea. We were... What was the evolution of this? We were sitting...
in a coffee shop.
Oh, no, this is what happened. We you launched J-Sketch, and you came around to something I think I've been saying from the very beginning, which is podcasts should have a target audience and be about something.
Right.
And so we were going back and forth. Okay, how can we make Buckle Up a little bit more targeted? Yeah. Because J-Sketch is very targeted at the Jewish audience, and you got a sponsor like that. It was like you did good stuff, and it came really easily. So we were like, oh, how could we target a little bit better in the same way J-Sketch targeted, but to our own audience? We were going back and forth different things, and I kind of landed on... just if there's any like Buckle Up nerds there who want to hear all this, you know, if you've been with us for 75 episodes, I kind of landed on... You have hundreds of thousands of followers over all your platforms. People like you.
Millions and billions of views.
They say, they see you have a podcast, and then they go to your podcast. It's called Buckle Up with Mike and Ami.
They don't even go to the podcast. A lot of them. They don't know.
Right. That's a big thing.
It's a removed endeavor.
The reels of Buckle Up that you share on your page don't translate into followers, which I think is a really good marker that your fans are not translating into Buckle Up fans. So the question is like, so how do we get them? And I think just real low hanging fruit is like make it more like you like Ami, you go to the podcast,
Right.
so you know what you're gonna get.
Essentially, it's we wanted to create a space in which it's a natural extension of the stuff that I do online and
Right.
cultivate that audience to come over here and be more into my world, and you be the great co-host that you are.
Right.
And shave the damn beard because people are disgusted. No, but be the great co-host that you are, and this will be my podcast, and you will be my co-host. So we're still going, guys. Yeah, they're freaking out.
Right.
I see that. They're just freaking out. We're still going to be going. We're going to be interviewing lots of fellow comedians, creatives, the stuff in my world that we talk about on this show. And obviously, even more given recent events, we'll be talking about everything. It'll still cover a lot of the same stuff, and the format will be the same, but we're calling it Ami's House, and I think it's going to take off once people realize it's my show.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's the hope. Yeah. So the hope is if you're a sponsor out there looking to get into Ami's audience, I think when we have a guest, not much will change really.
Yeah.
I don't think so much will be different. If you
Michael
like
will just
Buckle
learn
Up,
his
you
place,
like
and we'll learn
Ami's
to
House.
shut the F up. There it is. Just
Sure.
like, yep. No, it's like Howard and Robin. It's, it's Logan, Paul, and Mike, Lahav deal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I have appreciated this endeavor so far as the first at bat, and the next evolution, I am hopeful, will be successful. I enjoy podcasting a lot. It's really been great for Michael and I to flesh out ideas and meet new guests. It's been a great opportunity and a great vehicle to facilitate conversations with all kinds of people.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep going, evolving from Buckle Up into Ami's House. Everywhere you look. We still don't have a theme song. Everywhere
get one.
you look, Ami's House, there's a heart I'm here to hold on to. I have another track we can just use. The Buckle Up track.
I like that sitcom-y feel for Ami's House. That's fun.
Yeah,
like that.
I'll play you some tracks. I have one that's
Yeah.
pretty good. Boom.
Do you have one that's sitcom-y?
Not really.
That'd be fun.
A fun intro that's when you want a conversation and you want to talk to you.
Something like that.
Ami's house, that's what you gotta
With, like,
do. Come and
violins.
sit down, Hey, it's Ami's house. That's like a Rick Glassman approach.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
I love
Oh
Rick Glassman.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Something like that.
That's interesting.
That'd be fun.
We'll talk about it. But I will decide.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that wraps up Buckle Up with Mike and Ami. Thank you all for watching all 75 episodes.
Thanks for
Stay
watching,
tuned.
everybody.
We got a lot of episodes already.
Any special shout outs to good fans over the last 2 years? I want to shout out Yoni Stokar. My mother-in-law
Yes.
has been a great fan. My friend Geely has been a really good fan. Sam Fromer, really good fan.
Shout out.
Anyone
Jonas
else?
Eriker watches every episode. Mo Katz.
What's the guy who did our
Vinyl
logo?
Mike.
Vinyl Mike, who has
Vinyl
been really nice
Mike.
lately.
Our guests from Parker, Jeremy Parker, to
Yeah.
Neil Goldman, to all of the distant cousins.
Not
all
all
of
of
the-
them. Not all the distant cousins.
Stop. The guests we've had has been amazing, and they're going to come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's been a great experience to do it. And what am I saying? We're going to keep going.
What was
But-
the best episode you think we did?
Harry Rosenberg.
I think so, too.
I don't want to pick favorites, but that was
the
just
best
a
one.
ton of fun. Can you chill any harder than you're chilling right now? And
That
he
was the
said,
best one.
not at the moment.
That's what I'd like
What did he
Ami's
say? I
House
don't
to
know.
be more just Harry every episode.
Harry was
Like that level every
That
episode.
was excellent. I don't know. I have
That's
a lot
what
of
I
favorites. So a lot of good
I
guests.
think Harry and Robbie and Elon
Yeah. It's been a lot of them.
are the
But
three we're gonna template it off.
I am excited for the next phase. We have
Yeah.
a bunch of episodes already recorded and a next batch coming up. So stay tuned
Yeah.
for the beginning rollout of Ami's House.
One last buckle up, baby. Buckle up, baby.
Can
you put a soundtrack on this? Let's get the fuck out of here.